Hello everyone, Victor Tanzig here, and welcome to the Reddit Railway. Today's destination is r/EntitledPeople, so all aboard! I have an ex-friend named Ellen, and she's very much a Karen. She once threatened to call the cops on a waiter who accidentally bought her the wrong drink. I honestly don't know how or why we were ever friends. She comes off as sweet and caring, but is the most entitled person I have ever met. She also has fertility issues and is desperate to have children. She tried to adopt but was rejected due to her mental issues. She also doesn't have a job and tends to hoard animals, all of which usually die under mysterious circumstances. A while ago, she was saying how desperate she is to have children and was talking about looking for a surrogate. She wants someone to carry a child for her for free. Of course, there's no way that's ever going to happen since surrogacy is expensive, but I wasn't about to tell her this because explaining the truth to Ellen is like placing your head in a garbage disposal. Now, I don't ever plan on having children and have actually looked into donating my uterus. I made the mistake of telling Ellen this. She then said maybe I could give her my uterus. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. She latched onto this idea hard, which led to our falling out. She made Facebook posts saying I reneged on our agreement. She then suggested I could be her surrogate. I told her no. Her friends then started harassing me for giving her false hope and mental anguish. Ellen is threatening to sue me for my uterus and for the trauma I inflicted by not following through. I'm just confused and baffled. Last I checked, you can't sue someone to give up a body part. I have a lawyer friend who has agreed to help me if this turns serious. I doubt it will. She's just having a public meltdown because our friendship ended. Thank bloody God. What this woman needs is a new brain. Maybe OP could donate that. No, that would be a waste. It'd also be a waste if OP gave Ellen her uterus. Someone this unhinged should not have children. Ever. Keep your lawyer friend close, OP. Not that I believe this ever will escalate. There isn't a court in the world who would side with Ellen, even on the mental anguish front. I mean, it's a bit late for that one. I have a younger brother who has 4 kids. I do not get on with his wife, my sister-in-law. She always likes to try and get a rise out of me by acting superior. Whenever I retaliate, she becomes a self-victimizing drama queen who can cry on cue. My parents and brother absolutely adore her, even though they know what she's like. They just don't care. I'll admit she's very good looking, but she's so awful that I could never be attracted to her. She also refuses to get any sort of job, even though she has a college degree, and my mother willingly helps out with the kids all day. My brother's family lives with my parents because they can't afford to live anywhere else, and are completely dependent on his income. Growing up, my brother was the obvious favorite. He developed a superiority complex because I was badly punished if I ever did anything to him. He always got the lion's share of everything. Other family members noticed this and would call my parents out until we moved about 3 hours away from them. My brother got physically abusive after this. He flirted relentlessly with my first girlfriend to the point she broke up with me and laughed at any misfortune I had. My parents just told me to suck it up whenever I got upset about what he was doing. I only got equal treatment when my parents wanted to keep up appearances. I admit it was rather funny to see the looks on their faces whenever they had to treat me equal to my brother on birthdays and Christmas because other people were present. We had relatives that were very nosy and loved to gossip, so my parents did their best to hide what was really going on and threatened to take all my stuff away if I didn't keep my mouth shut. The day I turned 18, they practically kicked me out of the house. They must have been giddy about that because it meant they no longer had to provide for me. I wasn't even done with high school yet, but couch surfing was far better than living with them. I went low contact with everyone after I left. They didn't show up to my high school graduation, but I didn't really care. From that point on, I would usually only see my family on holidays. The start of the pandemic was not kind to me. I lost my job and apartment. I did own a truck and was able to buy a fairly cheap camper that was in pretty good shape. The original plan was to live out of the camper at my parents' house, but by this time, my brother had met his wife and already had a couple of kids, so their house was pretty full. Plus, we hadn't exactly gotten along throughout the previous decade. They said they'd let me park my camper if I paid them rent, but I wouldn't have been able to afford the amount they wanted, not by a long shot. While trying to reach an agreement, my brother and sister-in-law mocked me for living in a camper. Things got heated and my parents told me to get lost. I spent the next few months living out of my camper, which wasn't fun. I had to constantly move it to avoid being harassed or arrested, and had to steal electricity to keep its batteries charged. I couldn't stay with my friends because they all lived in apartments, and I couldn't go to any other family since they lived so far away. Finally, I was able to land a new job. My boss allowed me to park my camper behind the building where it was located. This worked out well for everyone because it meant I was always available for extra shifts, which I took every chance I could to earn extra money. Eventually, I was able to buy a house. When I was fully settled in, I was dumb enough to brag about it on Facebook. A few weeks later, my parents, brother and sister-in-law showed up unannounced. I don't know how they found my address. None of my friends or other family members admitted they told them, so I'm wondering if they followed me home from work or something. I guess it doesn't matter. They practically barged inside the moment I opened the door and began checking out the place. They kept poking around, and sister-in-law had this creepy smirk on her face the entire time. My parents kept saying I have too much space for someone who doesn't have a family of his own. My brother agreed with them and noted how my house was closer to his job. Red flags all around, I know. Eventually, my brother asked to speak to me privately. Everyone left to hang around on the front porch. I then realized they had something planned. My brother, let's call him Dan for the sake of simplicity, said I should let him and his family move in because his wife was pregnant again. He said I could live in the camper while they stayed in my house, all the while never offering to pay me rent, even though he has a good job. He also started talking about the changes he'd be making and would even impose a curfew. Apparently, I wouldn't be able to just walk into the house without prior notice. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I've read plenty of stories online about this sort of thing happening, but never thought I'd end up in such a situation. Then again, my parents, brother and sister-in-law do fit the bill for the type of people who would pull such a stunt. I picked up my phone and started recording. Dan didn't seem to notice or care I had done this. He just kept talking about all the reasons why he needed my house. When he finished, he actually reached out to shake my hand like it was a done deal. That's when I finally showed my backbone and said, "Hell no!" Dan stumbled back. I'd rarely raised my voice to him like that because I was punished by our parents whenever I did. I stood up and then told him this was my house and neither he nor his family was going to move in. He got as physically close to me as he could without actually touching me. He said I didn't deserve the house and his family needed a better place to live. I then laughed in his face and said that was total bullshit. I'd worked hard to buy my house. Of course I deserved it. I stated again I would never let him move in, even if he offered to pay rent. Dan told me he shouldn't have to pay rent because his family comes first. Right on cue, my parents and sister-in-law barged inside. They surrounded me and tried to force me to agree. There was a lot of fighting. I heard the line, "Just do it for Dan," more times than I can remember. I told them no, they don't have a say in my life or my house. Sister-in-law screamed at me about how she was pregnant again and that I can't do this to her. I said I did nothing to her. I have no obligation to help her or her family. Then I called her a stuck-up bitch before adding I have no sympathy for her. That made her angry enough to attack me. She got in one good hit on my face. She tried to do more, but Dan held her back, kicking and screaming. She kept demanding he let her go so she could scratch my eyes out. I then held up my phone, which was still recording. It got everything. I warned everyone I'd call the cops and press charges for assault if they didn't leave right now, which they did. My mother was the last one out the door. She said I had a week to come to my senses and that I should do this for Dan and sister-in-law. I said I wouldn't. Jesus, tap dancing Christ. These people are psychos. Well done to OP for standing up to them. He should absolutely file charges against the sister-in-law for attacking him. He should also get some cameras because there is no way his family won't try something. In fact, I know they will because OP made several more posts about this situation, which I'll cover next time. And with that, I'll end the video here. Like, share, and subscribe and drop a comment down below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.